Have you ever dreamed of a loving marriage only to feel trapped in emotional chaos? Well, today I'm going to be sharing with you a bit about narcissism. And I have to tell you, it is not my favorite. In fact, I have avoided sharing it because who wants to talk about that? But I know that so many of you are out there. You might be one of those people who are a victim of narcissism and you're having to live with that day in and day out. And maybe you tell no one. You don't want your friends to know, and maybe everything looks great on the outside of your marriage. Because often narcissists who are selfish and self-centered only think of themselves, and what you're going to find out today is some of the reasons why they are like they are. Sometimes they look like regular, great, wonderful people out in public, and they save it for home. And you know who they really are, a miserable person. And other times, everyone around them knows exactly who they are. So today we're going to look at why this happens and how you can survive it, how you can survive it. All right. And I'm going to help you empower yourself to reclaim your own peace. All right. So the core problem with narcissist is narcissism turns marriage into a one-sided battlefield. Can you relate? Constant control, manipulation, criticism, belittling, emotional abuse, and yes, lack of empathy. This erodes your trust, your intimacy, your joy in your relationship, and it leads to fear, frustration, and hopelessness each and every day. I've seen it. It's a sad and a lonely place. Victims of narcissism endure anxiety, depression, they feel alone, they lose their identity, and have chronic stress. From gaslighting, blame shifting, these sap your energy and your zest for life. So I've seen this happen. And often these people, like I said, have two personalities. They have the personality that everyone sees in public, and they have the personality that they have at home when they let their guard down and just be themselves. So we're going to look at 5 reasons that people become a narcissist. How does this happen? Well, genetics. First of all, inherited traits. Sometimes this is due to a little bit of personality style and then what they've witnessed at home. Have they lived with someone like this? And most often, whenever I see this, I first look at the family, maybe the father. I mean, I'm talking about men right now, but hey, there's women like this too. Kids are raised in hard homes, dysfunctional homes. And they can't help but do what they've seen. So sometimes it's inherited traits, and sometimes it's what they have witnessed. You know, we all have a mentor in life, right? Whether it was a school teacher, a dance teacher, a ball coach, that we're like, man, they're so great. And we're like them. But when you grow up in a home with challenges, you emulate it. Childhood trauma is another reason. Abuse, rejection, emotional trauma, bullying, or even neglect builds defensive walls and coping mechanisms. And sometimes that's what narcissism is, a coping mechanism. I have found if I can look from the middle, my side and their side, it helps me understand them more. But when it comes to a narcissist, you have to look a little deeper because it's not easy to see. Because when you're in the pain and the hurt, I mean, you either want to defend yourself or you want to crawl in a hole. I mean, like they come in the door and you're like, oh no, they're home. So, child trauma. I want you to stop and take a look at your spouse's family if you're having trouble. Dysfunctional parenting, excessive praise, imagine that. No boundaries, overprotective, or neglect, criticism, fostering inflated or fragile views of themselves. Inconsistent upbringing, mixed signals, unsustainable home life, unstable home life, poverty, violence in the home, narcissistic parents, or a dysfunctional society. Sometimes it's chemical imbalances, stress, any of the above can reduce empathy. And so you might cry, you might scream, you might plead, but there's no empathy for you because all their attention is on themselves. So, 5 devastating outcomes for the spouse. This is difficult for you. It's detrimental to you. You have emotional exhaustion. Endless manipulation drains your spirit. Do I see you nodding your head? Endless manipulation drains your spirit. You are cut off from your friends and your family. When you marry a narcissist, that's the first thing they want to do is cut you off from your friends and your family. Nobody has to know what's going on in your house. They don't want you to have any friends. They don't want you to have support, and they may be very controlling. They gaslight. Do you know what gaslighting is? Well, it happens that my grandkids mentioned it a couple of years ago, or I wouldn't realize what it was. Gaslighting. I see it all the time in politics, where one side says that the other side is doing this when actually they're the ones doing that. Well, it's gaslighting in marriage. The narcissist constantly tells you how irresponsible you are, how you are lazy and not doing what you're supposed to do. They might be, you might be a slendered person and they're telling you how fat you're getting. They reverse everything. And most of the time, they're having a problem of their own and they reflect it on you. They reflect it on you. So whatever problem they're having, often they reflect it on you. If they're having any kind of problem, they turn it around on you. Gaslighting erodes your reality and your self-worth. You begin to feel like you're not enough. You must be the problem. And some personalities fall into this more than others. Some fight back. That's like fighting with a brick wall. Some fight back, and others just clam up. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. Anxiety fuels depression and physical stress. You feel like your marriage is collapsing or it was never any good at all. You start to lose trust and you certainly don't feel supported. Well, how can you keep your head up within all this? How can you keep your head up when everything around you stinks? Set firm boundaries. Clearly communicate limits like, I won't engage in disrespectful talk unless you can lower your voice and speak to me in a more civil manner. I'm just not even going to listen to this. I mean, and this is if they don't get violent, right? Because a lot of times it's not physically violent, but it's mentally violent, mentally exhausting, mentally just crushing your spirit. You might leave the room or conversation without arguing. If you're a person who likes to argue or defend yourself or is not going to take it, yeah, that's really hard. Well, the thing is like you're going to be talking to a brick wall because you cannot reason with a brick wall. You cannot reason with someone who is not listening. They're not open and they're not listening. Let's go back to that childhood thing. Maybe it's because they were badgered as a kid. They were crushed as a kid and they closed up and they're self-protective. Now, I'm not making an excuse for them, But I'm just saying, if you'll stop and see and figure out where they're coming from, there might be hope for you. And also that all the different personalities, I teach a class throughout the year. It's called Rediscover Your Spouse. And a lot of times you can learn those people who are combative, whenever they're stressed, and those people who clam up whenever they're stressed. And knowing these things helps you learn how to deal with it. But some people are not able to set those boundaries, and they just let that person badger them and badger them and badger them without saying anything. You've got to draw the line, and you don't have to take it. Gray rock response them, which means respond minimally with neutrality. It's really hard to do. Pretend you're a school teacher and there's a kid in your class who's misbehaving. You cannot scream at them, can you? All right. A narcissist thrives on your emotional reaction. Yeah, whatever. Have you ever seen a little kid whenever they are not listening to their parent, and if their parent is calm, things are different. But when the parent is rattled, I know I've been rattled before with kids. When the parent is rattled, the kid looks at them and they kind of grin. They're kind of excited that they got to rise out of the parent. Well, a narcissist is kind of the same way. They want to fight. It's like it's a release for them. It's like it helps them get rid of their stress. And in the meantime, they have thrown all that on you. They walk away and feel better, and you feel horrible. You feel horrible, and you carry that burden with you. Build your support circle. Make sure you have a trusted friend, a relative, a support group, a coach, or a counselor. Look for other couples that you'd like to emulate. If you can get your spouse to hang around with other couples, other godly couples who exhibit what you want in your marriage, who exhibit what you want in your marriage. Build your circle with those trusted friends. You also might want to make sure, if you're a woman, that it's a woman as your friend. So, like, you can't go crying on a guy's shoulder. You know what happens with that. And if you're a man, make sure you're not telling your troubles to a woman. That's not your friend. A man needs to have another married man who can give them, like I said, godly advice. Prioritize self care and discipline your mind. Hey, whenever you're in the middle of this, your mind goes all over the place. A lot of times it goes to negative words on yourself, your frustration. You're trying to figure out what you did to cause it, and you didn't do anything to cause it. You didn't do anything to cause it. You have to figure out how to fill your cup because you will be emptied day after day after day. I often talk about deposits and withdrawals in marriage. And when we do something good for our spouse or we compliment, it is a deposit. Whenever we scream at our spouse, that's a withdrawal. Whenever we don't do our part in the household, that's a withdrawal. And in your marriage, you need even deposits, like he deposits, you both deposit into your marriage. And that's what makes the extraordinary marriage, right? When you both deposit, you're both aware, you're both paying attention, you're both growth minded. You want more, you're looking for help. You're looking to people who have what you want. So, what fills your cup? Could it be a hobby, a great book, friends, exercise, use the Bible? Prayer, and books that feed your mind and soul with truth, self-worth, positivity. And like I said, remember positive self-talk. I don't even have problems like narcissist. And I still, because we're emotional beings, on occasion, yeah, too many occasions, talk to myself negatively. Well, you can't afford that. When you have this kind of discord in your home, you have to turn those words around and lift yourself up and talk positively to yourself. You are enough. You're a good person. You've just gotten into this situation, and you need friends and support to help you continue through. Don't let narcissism steal your hope and energy. All right, so let's recap. Number one, identify what causes your spouse's behavior. So you may have to take a minute and think about that. What causes your spouse's behavior? Two, remember, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And see gaslighting for what it is, untruth. Three, don't let yourself be isolated. Make sure you have friends and support around you. Four, do the things that fill your cup. Figure out what fills your cup, what keeps you happy, what gives you joy. Might be, like I said, a hobby, a craft, hanging out with a friend. You deserve peace, strength, and a loving marriage. You could book a chat with me today at theextraordinarymarriage.com. Scroll down to Fresh Insights for a private hour with me to map out your breakthrough. I'm Connie Durham, The Extraordinary Marriage, and I'll see you next time.